Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Jeff Holst. Thanks for being on the show, Jeff.
No, thanks for having me, Whitney.
Jeff has an amazing story, and personally, I know that my success in real estate began when I started to get my mind right, and when things changed for me personally, and started working on personal growth and things like that. But maybe it didn't start there, but I made a decision then and started growing myself, personally, and that's when things really started happening. But a little about Jeff, and I'm excited to get in this story and some things that's happened to him and how he is just thriving, and no matter what the challenging situation is, and the way he views things. But a little about him. In August of 2008, he was a successful lawyer with a growing firm. 3 weeks later, he was lying in a hospital bed, dying of leukemia, and well on his way to personal bankruptcy. Just over a decade later, he's back on the top as a full-time real estate investor and syndicator who just last month climbed to summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in Africa. Wow. I don't think I've had anybody on the show that's done that. So,
I don't know too many people that have. We went in a small group, so I know a few people, but other than those people, I don't really know anyone else.
How long did that take?
It was an 8-day climb.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's you start out maybe around 2,000 meters, so like 6,000 feet, somewhere around there, and then the summit is 19,300 feet. So you get snow at the equator in Tanzania, so it's kind of an interesting experience. It's also super hard, and I don't recommend it. It was actually maybe the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And if you're watching the video, you can see I'm not like the best shaped guy in the world, so it was real tough. I lost a couple toenails, and my brother actually didn't summit. He came with us, and he ended up getting mountain sickness. Ended up in a hospital for 3 days in Tanzania. He was pretty rough. He's okay now. It's been like a month. We climbed in mid-February, and then also the timing of that with this COVID thing is crazy, right? I pretty much went up the mountain in one world, came back to a totally different world. So had this personal, life-changing experience, and then on top of that, everything actually changed. So
wow, man, I don't know if I want to try that or not, but at least you accomplished it. You got to the top. But I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your story and just the mindset you've created too, and how you've got there, and how you can a couple of things we were talking about, just some unique set of life experiences that allowed you to see through and overcome some big challenges that would drown most other people. And so let's jump right in there.
Sure. So, actually the Kilimanjaro thing, I think my life experience is the only reason I could do it. It's made me a really stubborn person, right? I'm climbing this mountain and I'm thinking to myself, I'm never going to make this. By the second day, I was convinced I was going to fail. And I just kept thinking, well, if I keep going forward, I'll either eventually get there or I'll be hospitalized. And I figured that was a good enough excuse to quit if I was going to actually die. So I just kept moving forward. And fortunately, I adjusted to the altitude and I was able to do it. But that's something that I've gotten from my whole life. You kind of alluded to me getting leukemia back in 2008. And, what happened is I had made myself a short list of sort of like a bucket list, right? It was like, I want to see the pyramids in Egypt. I want to go to Machu Picchu in Peru. There was a couple other things on there. And Machu Picchu was the last thing. And I was 30 years old. I climbed to the top of Machu Picchu, and everything was it was like I was at the top of the world, right? And that, in a way, the Kilimanjaro thing is like sort of my way to reclaim that, because it's much higher than Machu Picchu. But I just, I'm looking down at Machu Picchu, and my wife is there, and we're thinking, this is just like everything is perfect in our life. And then literally within 2 weeks, I was diagnosed with leukemia, and I really was told my white blood cell count was around 258. It's supposed to be like 4 to 10. So it was bad. And I had a cousin who died of leukemia about a year and a half before I was diagnosed, and her white blood cell count had gotten to 150. So I was laying in the hospital bed and I was at 250, and I knew very little about leukemia at the time, except for that my cousin died at 150. So I was convinced I was dead. And the doctors didn't know what kind of leukemia I had. And so for about 3 or 4 days, I was 100% certain I was going to die. I remember having this conversation with my dad, and he said, if you make it till February, this is in September. He said, if you make it till February, we can go to Australia together. And I said, I just hope I make it till Christmas. That's really, that's where I was mentally. But at the same time, I was like, I've done all this cool stuff. I've been successful, and I felt like, it's going to be okay. Like whatever happens is going to happen, and that'll be all right. Obviously I was worried for my wife and stuff like that, but we didn't have any children, and she had a good job. So I figured, she'd probably be okay. But then, I had a couple of attorneys quit right before I got sick. And so there was a little uncertainty economically there. And I only had just the 2 attorneys and myself. So that kind of caused a spiral down on finances. It was costing me, I was around $5,000 a week to break even at the law firm, and we were making more than that. But then all of a sudden we were making 0. And that created a pretty big hole, and I couldn't work for about 6 months. So fortunately, I recovered from leukemia, but I wasn't able to recover financially from that big giant hole, and ended up bankrupt, which was it was a struggle. Honestly, it was harder than the leukemia in a lot of ways, because I was a bankruptcy attorney. So it's so I had to go in front of people I worked with and be like, hey, I'm done, can't do anymore. And they were nice about it. They understood about the leukemia and everything, and most of them were small bankruptcy attorneys and trustees and stuff that you knew and worked with all the time. But it was still pretty embarrassing. And I ended up taking a job working for a trucking company, and I moved out of town. I moved from Michigan to Tennessee, and I started working for a trucking company, hiring drivers and doing some contract work for them, legal stuff. And then I thought, I need to figure out a way to make money, even if I'm not working. And the only thing I could think of was like, I need to start a business, or I need to buy real estate. So I just started trying different stuff, and the real estate stuck. It was 2010, so it was a good time to start buying real estate. And I just kept buying, and I was making good money, and I just took that money and bought real estate. And then we did a lot of creative financing stuff, because I didn't have, I didn't have any credit, and I didn't have that much money, right? Because I just gone bankrupt. Yeah, I had a good job, but that was about it. So we did a lot of owner financing, and we partnered with a couple of people that had some cash. We probably did things that were like syndications, in retrospect, but I didn't even know what it was then, right? We're like, you put in the money and we'll split the profits up, which, is probably not actually what you're supposed to be doing, in retrospect. But fortunately, we all made money, and it's a long time ago, so we're probably beyond where we have any issue with that. And in fairness, it was, people that we were really familiar with and friends with, so it would have probably been okay anyway. But yeah, I don't recommend going down that route, obviously.
Let's jump into like what you learned from those experiences. That's definitely some difficult stuff. One of those 2 experiences is difficult enough for anybody, and most people mentally would have just said, it's over, and kind of like you wanted to at one time. But, tell me about what you learned from that, and like what that's taught you now.
Sure. So, one thing I learned even before that was that I didn't like having bad days. So I had made a decision to give up on bad days. And I know it sounds kind of hokey, but I just told myself today's a good day, no matter what was happening. And I tried to minimize the negative and embrace the positive. So when I got sick, my brother came to the hospital that day, and he said, he said something to the effect of, you're probably not having a good day today. Like he was almost like, excited that he finally caught me in this, I'm finally not having a good day thing. And I was
That's
like,
a brother for you right there.
Yeah. He wouldn't be like that now. He was pretty young then, but I felt like even then I was like, I've had a good life, and like, if I die, I die, but I'm not going to let this ruin my day. And that, to me, that was fundamental, because then through everything, I just got real stubborn. about not having bad days, and that stubbornness about always having, even if it seemed like there was bad stuff, I would try to find the good stuff. And, you know, good stuff happens to everyone every day and bad stuff happens to everyone every day. Yeah. Getting diagnosed with leukemia was traumatic, but it happened at 10 o'clock at night. So, you know, didn't really have time to ruin that day. And by the next day, I had time, like all these people visiting me in the hospital. And I was thinking, man, look at all these people that love me and are showing up the day after I'm diagnosed with leukemia. So I just kind of tried to embrace that stuff. And then I've carried that forward into my business. You know, I mean, like now we're going through this coronavirus thing. It's terrible. But, you know, I also think like I have some money in the bank, and like, you know, I'm so much better off than other people. The people that were climbing Kilimanjaro, like the guides, the porters, these guys make $10 or $15 a day, $20 a day if they're lucky. And, you know, there's no one doing that right now. I mean, Tanzania's shut down. So these guys are making $0, probably have zero savings, maybe have no food, you know, and I wish I could figure out a way to help them. I don't even know how you can help people like that right now, because you can't get money to them. Like, I mean, they don't have any ability to claim it. And if they had money, they couldn't spend it. So right. It's a real, you know, it's a real challenge for them. And I just try to think, you know, about the positives, right? I mean, I'm in my house, I've got books behind me I can read, I'm able to talk to Whitney. You know, it could be worse, right? I mean, I'm not locked in with no one to talk to. I mean, even something as simple as the internet. I mean, if this happened 20 years ago, I mean, I'm on Zoom calls every day, right? I mean, I'm got, you know, we even are doing a Zoom happy hour a couple times a week here, and just to hang out, you know, and talk to people.
You know, that I just think like mindset is so important. And it's something, you know, I even push back to like my military training. You know, they just ingrain just the mindset of that you can keep going, you know, so much into you. And I'm so grateful for that training. I call it like my never give up mentality. You know, it's like they teach you can keep going, and that it's not an option to give up. It's if you're in combat, it's not an option to give up. You know, it just costs other people's lives at that point, you know? And so I love how, you know, like I can't even imagine being in your shoes. And I love how you said, you know, you made a decision to give up on bad days and just got stubborn about not having bad days. And I just love that. It's like, okay, we're just not going to do it. Like, we're going to choose. I think it is a choice. You know, you're going to choose to see the good in it. And even when bad things are thrown at you, and how horrible it is that you were diagnosed with leukemia. I mean, that could be a bad day for anybody, but it's just amazing. Even through that, you had already had the mindset, you're going to choose to have a good day.
Yeah, well, you know, it's kind of like a muscle too, right? So I made that decision to choose to have all good days. And I literally was saying, like, you know, when I first started, I would tell myself, you know, 20, 30, 40 times a day, today's a good day. And then one day somebody came to me and said, you know, how you doing today? And I said, I never have bad days. And I suddenly realized it was true, right? Like, it was a surprise to me. It just came out of me like that. And I feel like once I got to that point, it didn't matter really what happened anymore, because I was so convinced that I wasn't having a bad day that I was always looking for positive. And fortunately, when I was diagnosed, it was, you know, more than a decade of unbroken string of, you know, having good days. So it was reflective at that point. Like, it's just a reflex. I didn't even consider the idea that I would have a bad day. And that helps a lot, obviously.
I love how you said, you know, you told yourself 20 to 40 times a day that you're going to have a good day. And because I've heard this numerous times from big time speakers and very successful entrepreneurs, how they say, you know, like, speaking negatively to yourself, it has so much more power than speaking positively. You know, so like, don't even speak negatively to yourself, right? Don't voice those things and allow yourself to hear those things. So, you know, how did you get started even saying things like that to yourself, just to create that mindset?
You know, I wish I could say there was like some like secret trick or something, but I literally was looking in the mirror in the bathroom, and I was 17, and I was kind of depressed. You know, and it was like not depression. It's like teenage angst, right? You know, that kind of depression. I don't know. I was fighting with my girlfriend or something, right? I don't even remember what it was, but I was just feeling down, and I was looking at the mirror, and I thought to myself, literally just popped into my head. So, I mean, I consider it like divine intervention or something, that I'm young and healthy and live in America. Like, how bad can it really be? And so I just said, I'm just going to have a good day today. And I literally said, today's a good day. I didn't even say I'm going to have a good day. I said, today's a good day. And then the next day I said it, and it wasn't a good day the next day. It took about a week or two of just telling myself over and over, today's a good day. And then all of a sudden I just didn't have bad days anymore. And that was, it's amazing. I actually think everyone should do it. I've been telling people this for 2 decades now. And I think only maybe 10 or 15 people have actually taken me up on, saying this to themselves over and over. But all of those people, whenever I see them, they're like, man, you changed my life. And I'm like, you know what, if I change one person's life with that, it was worth telling 1,000 people. So I love to talk about that, actually. And I get interviewed on other shows and they want to talk about real estate and stuff, which I love real estate. So I get it. But the mindset stuff is the reason I'm successful. I really think I could be successful doing anything because I just keep going forward. And if you do that, you get to your goal. It's just, like I said, climbing Kilimanjaro, starting a real estate business. It takes the same skill. Just keep moving forward, keep studying, keep learning, keep taking steps, whatever.
We can have you back on and talk about your syndication business, and I would love to do that. But I could not agree with you more. If you're an entrepreneur, I mean, just in life, like, this mindset is so important, and that's why I just thought is so worth just focusing on. Are there instances even in your real estate business now where it's like, that mindset has shown you through, other than just like the day-to-day grind, but anything where you can remember, okay, I'm so thankful that I'm going to have a good day today because this just happened.
Yeah, well, right. So, I mean, there's always struggles in any business, right? So we have, the one thing I think about is we were buying this 40 or 41 unit building, and the seller was just a terrible pain in the rear end. It was just really, really difficult to deal with, and they were so negative. And I just kept thinking to myself, you know what, I can get through this because, like, I'm not going to let this person ruin my day. I'm not going to let this person ruin my week, whatever, right? And it's so easy when people are negative to get, like, frustrated. And I still get frustrated. I just am really resilient about, like, if I'm irritated with someone, like if I get ticked off at Whitney, I'm going to say, you know what, I need to either minimize my contact with Whitney, or I need to recognize that I'm only going to deal with this problem for so long. And so with the seller, I was like, well, once we close, I never have to talk to this person again if I don't want. So I just needed to move forward. And it was a really good deal. And so I wanted to make sure we got through it. And even dealing with their counsel, like, we had, our attorneys it was such a terrible deal that just kept getting into fighting over terms in the contract and everything. And I kept thinking it was going to blow up. And I just kept thinking, no, I just keep moving forward. We're going to get there. So that's one example where, that really was useful.
Wow. So what has been the hardest part of your syndication journey or process?
Honestly, the thing that's hardest for me is asking people for money. Like, I like the deals, but I've had to, like, really work on my mindset here, recognizing that I'm not really saying, hey, why don't you give me money? I'm saying, here's an opportunity for you. And I forget who said it to me first, but you hear this a lot in syndication, that you have to, like, reframe what you're offering, because the truth is, it is actually, for a lot of passive investors, the best possible option they have. So that was really difficult for me at first. And I still struggle with that sometimes, because people will say, well, why should I give you money? And then I react with, like, I don't know why you should give me money. I have to say, no, you're not giving me money. You're investing in an opportunity that, really can bring you a solid return. And I have to keep forcing myself to think that way. So that's been challenging. And then also, I don't know how challenging this COVID thing is going to be. We're recording this and, like, it's the 1st of April, right? And we don't know what rents we're going to collect next month. So I'm mentally, like, trying to stay positive right now is actually harder than it's ever been. I usually sleep, like, super well. Like, I lay down and I fall asleep, like, almost instantly. And a couple of times last week, I was like, man, I was really struggling with getting to bed. My mind's racing and I'm thinking about all this stuff. So, I mean, it's been a challenge right now. I think this is one of the more challenging times for everyone in the country and really the whole world. So,
but you're going to continue to be stubborn about not having a bad day, right?
No, yeah, no, I'm definitely doing that. Like, if I can, you know what, you were saying this about the military training and moving forward, and you just can't quit, right? That reminded me of coming down from Kilimanjaro. That was actually almost harder than going up. The up was super hard, but then on the way down, you're super sore and you're walking down. So you're, like, like banging your toes into the thing, and you've got blisters and pain, and it's 27 kilometers from the top to the gate, and there's no roads. Like, it's trail, climbing over rocks, and it's not technical climbing, but it's also not easy, right? And it takes about a day and a half to get down. So it's like 6.5 days up and a day and a half down, right? At least the route we went. And there really wasn't an option. You can't quit, right? Like, there's no other way out. Like, your options are either quit or, roll off the side of the mountain and die, I guess. And so, but that's kind of where we're at with real estate right now, right? I mean, we can't quit. Like, I have investors that I have to take care of. And like, right. I think all of our deals are going to be fine. We have cash and even my own investments, I can't quit. If I quit, what do I do if I quit? Like, I can't just give everything back to the bank and go bankrupt. I mean, I suppose I could. I'd figure it out, but that's the last resort. I definitely don't ever want to have to go that direction ever again, no matter what. So,
tell me a way that you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours.
Sure. So, one thing that we've done lately is we've really tried to focus on our metrics, right? So, I mean, I know everyone thinks that, but we used to be like, oh, it seems like a good deal. And this comes from getting into syndication. I've only been doing that about 1.5 years now. Before, we would just buy whatever felt right to us. And, when you get into syndication, you really need to like drill down on that. So I started taking finance classes, even though I have a ridiculous amount of college already, so that I could learn, all of these, like how to actually calculate an internal rate of return. And for that matter, what it actually means. Like, I knew sort of instinctively what it means, but I even see some syndicators still putting that in their packets and not actually explaining it correctly or calculating it incorrectly. So I really try to drill down on all those different metrics, and how to calculate them and building out better models. So, I mean, I've gotten to become like an Excel expert to like create my own models and like, and also tracking stuff. Like, we created an investor scorecard, or an investment scorecard, where even deals that we don't buy, we go back and look at what they traded at and see what that cap rate actually worked out to based on what we projected the NOI to be at year one. So we can kind of see what other people are doing. And then that way we get a better feel for where the market is. Now, of course, right now, I mean, who knows how much that's worth, because the market's up in the air, what's going to happen in the next few months or years here. So we'll see, but I mean, it's still good to have all that data and be able to sort of see where everyone else is at.
No doubt about it. I think it's really smart to be able to go back and do that and see where you were at. It definitely helps you to know how to underwrite the next deal, or just know what other people are doing. Like you said, maybe that doesn't mean you want to do it, maybe, but it's good to know. Tell me what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I think creativity is probably the determinedness of moving forward. I mean, other than that, which we've already talked about, that's super important. Just keep moving forward, because like, if you point yourself in the right direction, in fact, I think of it like a rocket ship. So it takes a lot of effort to get started, right? Like, buying your first real estate deal is very, very hard. Once you do that, you're kind of like already in orbit, right? And then, like, if you launch a rocket ship from Houston or from Florida or something, and you're trying to get to the International Space Station, the hard part is getting to orbit. The next part is just little adjustments to your trajectory. You don't aim right at the space station, you just aim at space. You get up there, then you make those changes. So to me, that's the thing that's most important, is just, getting started, and then, recognizing that after you're started, you can make those little adjustments to find the right place, and you're just kind of fine tuning everything.
Love that. What's a way that you're finding investors right now?
So we actually don't raise huge amounts of money. We do pretty small deals, and we have a pretty solid pool of investors. So we're not really searching out that much for them. But, I do a lot of shows. I'm not that I'm, coming out here to pitch anything. I don't even have anything right now to sell, but it's about building credibility, making sure people understand where you're coming from. You have to be super authentic. And then you have to talk to everyone. Like, if someone wants to talk about real estate, they want to ask me a question about, what they should do about their problem, I'm going to go out with them. I'm going to set up a Zoom. I'm going to go to coffee with them, whatever. Just talk to everyone, tell everyone what you're doing, and then, get out there. So we have a real estate show, actually. I don't know if you knew about that or not, but it's the Old Fashioned Real Estate Show, where we just drink old fashions So basically we get drunk and talk about real estate on YouTube. And so that's one outreach thing too. You get people following that and sending us questions and stuff like that. So.
Wow. Well, Jeff, what's a way that you give back?
Well, honestly, it's the same thing, right? Like it's not completely altruistic, but going out and talking to people about how they can work on their own real estate business is a form of giving back. And then of course, we're trying to be as positive as possible all the time. And I think that that's super helpful for people. Lately, what I've been doing is I've been doing a Facebook group that we just try to help people live the best version of their life, even if that's not a real estate thing, right? So I actually do it with a real estate syndication attorney, Jillian Sidoti. The two of us started this group, and we have a podcast where we just interview people doing great things. Like just this week, we interviewed someone who is helping people learn how to sleep better, which was really timely for me because, like I said, I've been having this sleep issue that I never had before. But it's all about just talking to people and trying to help them through whatever it is they're working through.
Nice. I appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing that, Jeff. And I also am just grateful for your time today and sharing just your story. And I hope it helps at least one listener to understand that like it can be a choice to have a good day, and just how you speak to yourself is so important. I try to tell my boys often, like it's your choice to have a good day. It's your choice.
And few people recognize that. It's amazing how many people are like, when I tell them that, they'll say something like, well, that must be nice for you. And I'm like, yeah, it is, but it's also good for you. Like you should do it also.
Well, Jeff, tell people or tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Sure. So I have a website, jeffreyholst.com. So it's just my name.com. That's probably the easiest way, but otherwise Facebook, Instagram, any of that. All my names I don't hide. So everything is Jeffrey Holst or Jeff Holst, right? So, and the Old Fashioned Real Estate Show on YouTube, of course, too. That's just youtube.com/oldfashioned real estate. And then the Facebook group that I talked about where Jillian and I are doing it is called Last Life Ever. So it's literally like, it's your last chance at being alive. So last life ever.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.